Hey guys, today we're going to be talking about this Rite Aid story, which Rite Aid is implemented facial recognition and has wrongfully accused people of shoplifting. And so federal regulators have come down on them and have banned them from using facial recognition technology for the next 5 years. Many people aren't aware that so many retailers are working together with facial recognition. There are projects like Amazon's Recognition. Recognition is the mass surveillance facial recognition program that is marketed to retailers. And there's also other loopholes that allow possible access from outsiders as well, as they have mentioned banning the use for police, but there are ways that that could be gotten around, especially with the reports that contractors that were working these systems were able to use the video as they see fit. And so it's always possible, not necessarily true, that there could be marketing through third party. Now, I'm not claiming that this is the case, but it is always a possibility. And so Rite Aid has been using flawed facial recognition in order to go after people who they thought might turn into a shoplifter. Now, this AI technology is heavily flawed, and as I've mentioned many times, the bias of the creator is always going to be in the program. No matter what we're talking about, be it an application that you may use in your daily life, to a social media platform, to an AI facial recognition or other biometric or judgment related system. And that's really what AI is about. It makes judgments. So it is a judgmental mass surveillance technology. And that's something that Meredith Whitaker of Signal has talked about, how AI itself is really surveillance technology. When you sign up for ChatGPT and other ones, you are constantly feeding it data. And by creating the infrastructure in the new industrial revolution that is AI backed, well, that of course is going to entail the forcing of all individuals to submit their data to these AI systems. And we see how there are many problems with things like predictive policing, and where they have heightened risk with racial bias against shoplifters. And many times we've seen how even the parliament in the European Union was seen as potential criminal suspects. They were actually identified wrongly in a criminal lineup. And what's so dangerous about this AI technology is it justifies the unjustifiable. So you're able to go after anyone you want if you program bias into it, whether intentional or not intentional. It's the results that matter. And the fact that the European Union representatives were identified as wanted criminals says enough that anyone could be identified as a criminal wrongly, their rights completely taken, in that they wouldn't have the same due process other people would have, because there is a reliance on a flawed technology that can be used to go after people that they maybe aren't as happy with. And we can see that this particular case with Rite Aid is not just the only place that is using this flawed technology. There's a number of different stores that are known to use this flawed facial recognition, and many stores are picking it up. There's actually a list where you can find who is claiming to use. If you look at banfacialrecognition.com, you'll find a list of different retailers that both are using and admit using facial recognition, and those who are making the claim that they won't use it. Now, this list should be taken with a grain of salt, because we don't really know if they're being honest or if there's some kind of legal loophole that's allowing them to say they're not using it. But the ones that say they are using it, you can expect it. I'm also going to talk about some defenses with this kind of technology. Being that it is so heavily flawed, it turns everyone into a criminal suspect. Different types of clothing lines that can help trick this AI camera system. And that is something that we're going to talk more about in coming content. There's also different types of makeup patterns. So these types of things that use image recognition can be fooled using high contrast designs and other things that appear recognizable to that system. And so when you see these funny looking clothes, they actually have a real purpose in mind here. So as you can see, there's dogs on this one and faces, and some people will put just human faces all over their clothing in order to fool the facial recognition as well. And also, I actually got a hold of some of this adversarial clothing myself. And so I'll be talking more about that. And if you're interested in getting something like this, reach out to me and I might be able to make that happen. There's also ways you can use things like license plate readers, those things that the police use in order to track cars, and many times you'll notice a cop going really close behind you, and a lot of times that's to allow them to read your license plate and look you up and see if there's anything on you there. Now, at the DEF CON conference, which is a computer conference, they actually produced some of the examples of this type of clothing in order to fool license plate readers. Now, there's also a hoodie out that was on Hackaday. Enhances that for darker vision using infrared. This type of LED setup is able to blind the camera. So someone wearing a hoodie like this, which has these tags right here, and what that does is it actually blinds the camera. Now there's also talk about things like lasers, but I don't recommend that because those could actually harm the hardware, and of course we don't want to harm the facial recognition hardware. We want to ensure it runs in perpetuity. So let's take a look at this great little video clip which I wanted to show because it really does a great breakdown on some of the defenses for facial recognition and how you can actually take action to actually fight against this totalitarian technology, because that's exactly what it is. When you look at what being human is, it is the ability to think for yourself, to act for yourself, and you need the necessity of privacy in order to stay not automated. What mass surveillance does is it automates human behavior, taking away what it means to be human. Let's take a look at this video clip on defenses from City Prepping Channel, and we'll go ahead and watch that and see what they recommend, and I tend to agree.
But it only takes one of the streams from when the camera is connected to software programmed to be used for facial recognition to identify you. It only takes 2 or more of those streams to predict your movements. Thankfully, those numerous systems are not all linked together, but what can you do now to protect yourself in the future? You can't avoid being captured in the camera's range because you can't become invisible. However, you can reduce your chances of detection and confuse cameras and recognition software in many ways, disrupting the facial detection and facial recognition through concealment, therefore depriving the data needed, or disguising what the data picked up as flawed, are highly effective methods to remain unseen. Hiding in plain sight. Pattern recognition is another method by which facial recognition software detects faces. The human face's dark spots and light spots. Those all match a similar pattern. When those are reversed, a person can sometimes elude detection. This isn't as practical of a method, however, because you would stand out if you had makeup on that made your chin, cheeks, and forehead exceedingly dark, while your eye areas were extra bright. You actually could wear the printout face of another person. Through these methods, you may avoid detection by cameras, but not by any humans. You would stand out to the average viewer, of course. A more subtle way would be to have a picture of people on your clothes. This can sometimes overwhelm the algorithms used to interpret the images. While it is busy analyzing the image, you are sometimes overlooked. This method too is not 100% effective, and some technologies will still be able to pull your face out of the mix of other images on your clothes some percentages of the time. Anti-facial recognition clothing, face masks, sunglasses, they can all work to stop facial detection and recognition systems. Some methods are more obviously seeking to thwart these systems and may draw attention by way of their audacity. Others, like reflective acetate tapes and films applied to glasses or hats, can spoof infrared systems by not allowing them to achieve an accurate read on a person's face. There are also reflective paint sprays on the market that will reflect infrared light to confuse cameras. These will make you stand out brightly at night or under black lights. Essentially, they create a blind spot by overwhelming the person's location in the infrared's camera field of vision. Infrared and ultraviolet blocking films for windows can be applied to glasses to hide features behind clear glass. Blocking films, however, will be the opposite of reflective acetates and paints. They will darken the area to the cameras, thereby concealing the features of the eyes. Eyes are ordinarily dark to facial detection software, so your face will be detected but the features will not be recognized. Physical tricks like tilting the head, concealing the bridge of the nose, placing a dark gloved hand on your face, or simply looking down can enhance your concealment from facial detection and recognition software. These methods are not the most reliable and do not work all the time. Also, as detection systems get more sophisticated, these tricks are being coded into the detection. At some point, one of these tactics may actually become a signaling flag. Fortunately, cameras need a wide angle and a large area to scan. To accomplish this expansive view, cameras have to be positioned above the average height of a human and pointed toward crowded areas. Knowing this, merely looking down while wearing a wide brim hat, like a baseball cap, would be enough to conceal precise details. Though thermal imagery can still see through sunglasses, details are not rendered clearly when wearing glasses. Infrared light is being used in most surveillance systems because it is invisible to the human eye and can illuminate an image for the camera in extremely low light situations. Technically, it is electromagnetic radiation with wavelengths that are longer than visible light. Most of the thermal radiation emitted by objects near room temperature is in the infrared spectrum. Because of this, lining jackets, hats, or the bridge and chin areas of a facial mask with stripes of a typical Mylar emergency blanket can alter the heat signatures of a person. Reducing heat signatures can throw off surveillance systems as they zero in on more prominent sources. The Mylar portion will block the infrared signature of what's behind it. While no single one of these outline methods is guaranteed wholly effective, some combination of a little bit of each will be extremely useful. How you should avoid detection. Though there are many ways to try and trick cameras in facial detection and recognition software, you can adopt a casual combination of a few of them to become invisible to the most passively observing systems. If facial recognition systems are specifically targeting you, naturally, the methods you adopt will need to be more extreme. You very likely don't want to go about your everyday life wearing a prosthetic nose to extend your nose tip, so I don't suggest that extreme for everyday living. I suggest that you adopt just a few methods to casually practice daily to help you fly under.
So essentially, he's talking about how you can actually use things to cover up the symmetry of your face, being that much of this technology relies on facial symmetry in order to detect different faces. And so by covering up half of your face with your hair, things like sunglasses, using masks, which with everything that's been going on, of course, masks are something that I think it's a positive thing that have been socially normalized. I do not see it as a benefit to get rid of that normalization if you're interested in confusing facial recognition. Now, of course, there are facial recognition systems that are tuned to work with standard masks, but adding sunglasses, things like changing your hair and covering up a good portion of your face, wearing a hat that covers up the viewpoint of that camera, the ability to wear different types of clothing. Now, this is all in good fun. Now, obviously, talking about this is not intended to make you completely invisible. Of course, you're still going to be there, but it's still fun, in my opinion, to mess with these types of mass surveillance systems because they are totalitarian technology and they do not have a right to exist. In my opinion, totalitarian technology does not have a right to exist. And just because of what the long-term implications are, and that being that those who control these systems will ultimately have control over humans around the world. And I do not see any benefit to that. Just like I mentioned the analogy, if you continuously supply a baker with only ingredients to bake cakes, eventually that baker is going to bake a cake. And the same can be said for totalitarian technology. If you continue investing, industrializing mass surveillance technologies, the end result is you're going to get a mass surveillance totalitarian state in the end. And be if it's controlled by corporations, lobbyists, or foreign or domestic interests, doesn't really matter. The fact is, we're talking about small groups that are going to be able to control the many. And there's nothing more dangerous than small groups that want to control the many, because the only way small group can control the many is through totalitarianism, because of the fact that small, powerful individuals that seek to control the masses are always going to have to use totalitarian measures in order to maintain that level of control. So that is why it is so incredibly dangerous that this technology exists to begin with, and where it's taking us. And I encourage you to check out the blog. It's at bmc.link/politictech. And if you want to check out the channel where I got this video clip, it's called City Prepping. I just thought it was a great combine of different types of defenses. You can also utilize things like makeup as well to confuse facial recognition. And really, why not mess with these systems? These systems aren't here for our benefit. They're there to enhance the power of those who are behind this technology, who invest in this technology. And of course, you know, I can't say I support Rite Aid for using this technology. So I did want to bring that story to light as it just came out this week. And I will be talking more about this type of strategy in order to, in good fun, confuse facial recognition. So we're going to be talking more about that. And if you're interested in checking out a adversarial pattern piece of clothing, you can reach out to me and I'll see if I can help you out. And I had some things manufactured for it. So otherwise, there's also companies out there that are established that do this kind of thing. So if you want to get an entire clothing line, there's things out there, and I'll try and leave a link to that in the description. So guys, thanks for watching. Make sure to leave a comment and share this video on social media so people are aware of the types of things retailers are using in order to basically use and justify different means of force and other ways of banning. And they also share this information with others. So I had covered a story a couple of years back about this and how some of these cloud-based facial recognition AI systems actually share the scans and the suspicious looking people, which it could be someone just fumbling to find their wallet. It could be something very small that makes someone appear suspicious. And once you get blacklisted, that gets shared with other retailers and you become blacklisted altogether. I also covered a story of how a lawyer actually was in litigation against a stadium-based sponsor. And in that, the facial recognition picked up the lawyer's face and actually prevented her from entering the game. This is the type of direction this technology is taking us in. It is totalitarian in nature, and it's never going to be something that protects your freedom. And when anyone says that you need to give up your freedom for security, you should run, because there's no such thing. All of this is an illusion of security. And in fact, mass surveillance that we know of, there are no real established cases of it stopping terrorism. So we have that as well on our side as evidence against this type of totalitarian technology. Guys, make sure to share the video, like it, subscribe, and leave a comment, and I'll be back later with more on facial recognition and how you can defend yourself from totalitarian technology.